Okay, so what was everyone's journey like into Cambridge? Yeah.
Yeah, so I suppose for me it was kind of always something I wanted to do, going to Oxford or Cambridge, but like kind of always in the back of my mind, like it was never like
this is gonna happen.
Yeah, like it was always something like sort of an idea I entertained, and yeah, it wasn't really until sixth form that like my teachers started sort of pushing me to kind of apply and that sort of thing. And in terms of specifically choosing languages, I suppose I've always like been interested in languages since like year 8, and there's always something like I wanted to do in some part. And I think what I like about the course here is that it's like the language and literature.
Yeah.
So that's two aspects I've always enjoyed, and I couldn't really decide between doing like language or like English lit, something like that. You know, so this because it's such a good combination of both.
Yeah, I think it's really good that ML has that mix. And I'd say that at least my journey was quite different because I went down more the sciences route, so I did biology and chemistry in my final year, and it was only really, really late into the application process, so September before the October deadline, that I decided I wanted to apply. And that's because it was truly what I'd enjoyed at school. I really, really enjoyed French, and I kind of felt that if I went down the more sciencey route with my degree, I wouldn't enjoy it as much as if I went for what I truly enjoyed at school. And I'm really glad I did, because I've been loving the course, but it meant that I came into the course kind of with a blank slate, not really like knowing all too much, not really knowing much about like the literature of French or Spanish either, as it's my new language. But the course is really, really good in the sense that you don't need that like prerequisite knowledge. You can come into it and you can start from scratch, and you get a lot better at it quickly. You pick it up as you go along, and that was quite a good thing about the course. And the only thing that was required of me to apply was French. You only need one language, so it meant that I was pursuing other interests alongside also having done French at school, and that was quite good, that I wasn't necessarily limited to having to study humanities for my final year. And how about you, Alex?
I'd say my journey to Cambridge was quite strange, because until year 9, year 10, I didn't even know I was ever going to end up at uni, because I wasn't actually that academic. Or I must have been in there, but I just hadn't discovered that part of myself because I wasn't in the best kind of environment for encouraging studying things. And my mum's a creative, and she never went to uni, she didn't even do GCSEs, so I guess that just wasn't in something that I was ever pressured to do. But I think that's nice, because it means like my journey here has been on my own accord. And I'd say in like year 11, I was quite lucky to get a bursary to quite a good school, and I really noticed the difference in language teaching especially. That was quite frustrating because I always loved Spanish, which is what I study now at university, but the classrooms, there was no passion because there weren't the teachers, there weren't the resources to help us out. And then I was quite lucky at sixth form to get a lot of really good support that kind of gave me the confidence to think I could do this at university and it's actually going to be really useful. Because I think my original plan was law, which, really interesting still, but I was kind of telling myself, I'm not going to do languages because I didn't know exactly what directly could come from that. But then I was quite lucky to talk to some good teachers that made me realise, I don't know how many opportunities there are that can come from that. And so I chose history and Spanish, kind of similar to you. Like, I love literature, I love reading, I did English lit at A-level, and I knew this was a degree that could kind of satisfy so many kind of interests of mine. And then somehow I ended up here.
Yeah, and I'd say the part about satisfying so many interests, and also wondering about what is it like to do a languages degree, and like what can come out of a languages degree, is something that's really special about the ML course, because it literally comprises of so many different things. You get to study the actual language, you get to study literature, culture, film. You can go into linguistics if you'd like. There's so many things you can do, and it means that you can gain lots of skills in lots of different things. And it's really, really good for people who like a lot of things, for example, or they're in decisive on what exactly they want to focus their uni years on. Because then that means that you get a bit of everything. And if you decide that, well, I'm more interested in something, then
Yeah.
you can go into that and you can specialise as you go through the years. And that's something that not every course offers. Some courses have a very linear path, but LML's open to so many different things that you might be interested in. Starting out with French this year in a university setting was very different. In the Scottish system, there's not a very big focus on literature, and so I was coming into it with a completely blank slate. But after having done text this year, a variety of periods of time, I've really enjoyed things from more modern times, like in the 20th century, and I was really surprised to have liked things from the medieval side of things, which there was a text that we studied that was from 1170, which is insanely cool.
Yeah.
You can study literally anything and you find that you enjoy lots of different things. But at least personally, I think I've really enjoyed the more modern things, and I really enjoyed learning about the post-colonial, for example. And I think that also reading more modern things has really helped with my language acquisition, making my speaking, my reading, my writing, my listening all better.
Yeah.
And how about you guys?
I definitely felt grateful to finally be able to focus more on South America through my Spanish paper.
Yeah.
A-level Spanish was really enjoyable, but it's such a step up, and it's such a different experience studying it here, as you were saying, because of the focus on literature. And especially as a history student, I loved the fact that every piece of media that we were studying was constantly so connected to context, and I really enjoyed. We studied a film, Tambien La Lluvia, which is a really enjoyable experience. I'd never studied a film before, and that was focused on kind of neo-imperialism in South America, which is very relevant in today's world. But then at the same time, we're studying medieval texts and studying the evolution of literature. I think it keeps you really stimulated, and I like that first year they kind of gave us a chance to dabble in every period, every region, whatever it might be. And now for next year, I, for example, am adding another language to my degree, which is really exciting. So I'll be doing history, Spanish and Portuguese, hopefully, and then studying Portuguese literature. And then I'm focusing on South American literature because I've decided that's what my kind of niche is. But I know lots of people that are doing European film as their course, and that kind of flexibility I think is really inspiring.
So like this year I've kept it quite varied with my choices. So I've done modern Spanish literature and then modern Latin American literature.
It's a lot of books.
Yeah, there's a lot of books. And sort of to kind of balance that, I did a linguistics paper. I did Italian linguistics, which was really interesting because it's something that I've never properly had a chance to study in very much depth before. And like I think that's the other thing, is that it's, even if you're not particularly fan of like literature or film or whatever, like the if you have like more like a sort of sciencey brain, like the linguistics is something that a lot of people will not have had a chance to study before.
Yeah.
But actually will find, because you have to do a little bit of it in your first year just to sort of have a try. A lot of people find that they really enjoy that, and that's something they want to learn more about.
And I felt that the opportunity to specialise has been really useful, but also the fact that you can still keep it quite broad.
Yeah.
For example, now going into second year, you have the opportunity to, for example, focus on more South American and Latin American piece of literature, piece of culture.
Yeah.
You can keep it broad. For example, being able to do European film and being able to dabble in linguistics at the same time. It's kind of that you can make the course what you want it to be.
Yeah.
And even within your first year, where you try a bit of everything, it's really important that you get the opportunity to feel for things, because I felt that I kind of had preconceptions coming into the course, thinking that, well, I never like anything medieval, or I find it really hard to do anything from the early modern period. The writing's a little bit different. But I came into it and my mind's changed on a lot of things, and I kind of realised that things that you think you might like, you might not like, but there's a lot of things that you maybe never given a chance before that you will end up liking, and that's a really cool part of the course.
I quite liked kind of more structure-wise, but doing an essay sort of every week, but these essays not actually, contributing to your grade, but rather just being the personal improvement. It kind of gave me the chance to be a bit more experimental and take more risks when it came to writing. And I just felt like it meant, as opposed to A-level, and maybe how it works at some universities, I could write kind of exactly how I felt like writing, and I was never told there was a specific way to do things. And obviously sometimes, I made mistakes like we all do, and there were ways in which you can improve your style or improve your argument. But I really enjoyed supervisions and having that one-on-two or one-on-one learning, because it just gave me the chance to have a conversation, but it felt really productive. And if one week I wanted to take a really close reading based kind of focus, for example, we did poetry by Lorca, and the imagery was so beautiful and powerful that I wanted to take a very literary approach, and that was appreciated. But then at the same time, while I was studying Canon Zoom, which is a medieval text, I took a much more historical approach and didn't do as much close reading. All of those sort of approaches are appreciated, which I didn't expect, because I think before you're so used to kind of being funneled down a certain kind of channel, which can kind of oppress your creativity a bit. And here I just felt so supported in kind of learning in a very independent way.
I think the experimental aspect of getting to do the MMO course is most definitely one of its highlights, because it means that you have the independence to approach your essays and approach your work in however you deem fit, and you end up getting to have a really productive conversation with an academic about why you've taken the approach that you have, and how you've argued and structured that you've put into your essays. And I think one of the really cool parts about doing literature is that not only do you do essays, but you can do commentaries as well. You can do a close reading into these texts and into the ways that these authors have put forward their arguments or the imagery they've used. And I feel like I've come back a lot to things I've done, for example, in my 4th year when I did National 5 English. So when people do GCSE English, something very similar. And all these techniques you come across, like personification and onomatopoeia, things like that, are really, really useful still, even when you move into uni. You can take all of these different wide and varied approaches and incorporate them into your work. And I feel like in that sense, as you move through the course, you can see your style flourish, and you can kind of grow into yourself as a writer, grow into your space as a writer.
And I definitely like a bit less literature focused, but Spanish oral has been one of my favourite parts of this year and how it was structured. Every week, having an hour to sort of talk about really interesting topics, I thought. Some of the weeks this year were so kind of specific and niche, and sometimes quite, shocking and disturbing, sometimes really cultural and fun. And it's been quite enjoyable, being in a space where everyone is, quite talented, a bit intimidatingly at first, but kind of has their own way of communicating in Spanish. So some people have a very South American kind of accent, some people take the more Spanish option, and I'm sure it's the same for all languages. Like, you can hear variety in the kind of colloquial phrases people use. But I never felt pressure to sort of assimilate to a certain speaking style. And I thought that was a really just interesting, enjoyable experience. And I can feel myself, especially before the year abroad, which will be coming up very close for you. I don't know, getting really excited to actually use this language, because obviously literature is a really big part of the degree, and that's what a lot of people do it for. But at the end of the day, we love speaking and learning a language, which is nerve-wracking. I remember at GCSE and A-level, kind of the thought of having to do an oral exam and just having to perform in that way, it's not easy, but I think it is something that at Cambridge anyway, I felt everyone has been able to enjoy and feel really confident in, because I think one thing when you come to Cambridge is everyone's so passionate and talented. You have to kind of learn to be confident on your own path rather than comparing yourself to other people, because if anyone does that here, it's not going to help you out. Everyone's talented and everyone wants to help each other, and I think that's a lesson this year has really taught me, especially in MML, because it's such a kind of social and kind bubble. I think I never now feel intimidated by the prospect of someone else being way better at speaking Spanish than me, because the degree has so many different parts and different people shine in different ways. And I think especially compared to other courses, things that I've heard of, Spanish has that, and same for French and other languages, really kind like supporting network, I guess, which I think is something I expected, and I'm glad that that has been fulfilled after coming to Cambridge.
Yeah, and I'd say that the supportive aspect rings true in so many facets of life as someone who studies a subject. For example, in my Spanish aura this year, someone who starts as a complete beginner, I've gone through the year with the same two girls in all of my speaking classes, and it's been really good to see how we've all grown and developed, and there was never really this sense that we were competing against each other to get better, but more so encouraging each other and bringing ourselves up together throughout the year. And we've managed to talk about so many different things, some things we agree with, some things we disagree with, but it's always been very civil, and it's always been very insightful and useful to learn with others. And I think getting to learn with others is one of the best parts of this degree, and it's so integral to language learning as a whole. It's so multicultural, and I think that's been probably one of my favourite aspects of this year. Yeah?
Yeah?
Yeah, good.
I think we've said quite a lot.
Yeah, awesome.